"You're just here to watch the dog," my mom snapped after I paid for their entire family cruise. "I'm not your servant or your ATM," I shot back, then canceled every payment and cut them off forever. "I'm Ethan, and I'm 27 years old. As far back as I can remember, I have always been seen as the odd one in my family. Not for anything I did wrong, at least not anything I could figure out. My parents always preferred my younger brother, Noah, and my older sister, Olivia. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't one of those things you only notice once you grow up. No, I realized it when I was just a kid. Forgotten birthdays, ignored accomplishments, harsher punishments for me than for them. That was simply normal. When I graduated high school with honors, my dad barely lifted his head from his newspaper. But when Noah finished school a few years later with average grades, they threw a huge celebration for him. When Olivia got her first job, they couldn't stop talking about how great she would be. When I got an excellent job and started making a good salary, my mom just said, "Well, at least you won't be asking us for money." Funny how it turned out. Even though I was treated like the least important, I was always the one they came to for help, and they needed help a lot. Noah kept quitting jobs whenever he got bored. Olivia spent more money than she earned, using credit cards for luxury trips and expensive bags. My parents weren't good with money either, so guess who they always called when money problems showed up? "Ethan, can you pay Noah's rent this month?" "Ethan, we just need a small loan to cover Olivia's car payment." "Ethan, your dad and I are falling behind on the mortgage. Just help us this once." Like a fool, I helped them every time. I told myself that if I showed them I could be helpful, maybe they would finally see me differently. And for a while, it felt like it worked. They treated me a little better. Not with real love, not the way they treated Noah and Olivia, but with a bit more respect, but only when I was giving them what they wanted. The second I paused, or if I ever needed help, they acted like I was doing something wrong. "Ethan, why are you being selfish? We are family. You make the most money. Why are you acting like this? Come on, you know we would do the same for you." But they wouldn't. They never had. Still, I kept playing my part. I kept telling myself maybe this was just normal family life. Maybe I was wrong for thinking it should be different. That all changed last summer. We had a family vacation planned for months. My parents, Noah, Olivia, their husbands, wives, and kids. Everyone was going. And for once, I was actually excited. Not because of the trip itself, but because they had truly included me. Something that almost never happened. The plan was to meet at my parents' house in the morning, leave our cars there, and head to the airport together. I even paid extra. I booked a better rental car and covered extra costs because, of course, none of them had saved enough. I woke up early, packed my bags, and drove to their house, feeling a kind of hope I hadn't felt in a long time. But when I arrived, something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. No rushing, no packing, just silent. I knocked on the door, no reply. I checked my phone to see if there were any messages. Nothing. Then my phone rang. It was Olivia, and she was already laughing before I answered. "Oh, Ethan, I was wondering when you'd call," she said, laughing. My stomach dropped. "Where is everyone?" I asked. "Oh, you didn't get the message? We left early. Mom and Dad figured you wouldn't mind staying behind just in case someone needed to look after the house. And also, we left Duke with you. He loves being with you, right?" Duke, their golden retriever. They left me at home to babysit the dog while they went off on a cruise, the same vacation that I helped pay for. My throat felt dry. "You can't be serious," I said. "Oh, stop being dramatic," Olivia said sharply. "We'll bring you something good, okay? Anyway, I gotta go. The signal here is bad." And just like that, the call disconnected. I stood there holding my phone, staring at the locked front door of my parents' house. I wasn't even shocked. I should have been upset, but I wasn't, because deep down, this was exactly what they always did. And at that moment, something inside me changed. A cold, steady feeling filled my chest. They had taken from me endlessly, over and over. They had used me, ignored me, and treated me like I was only good for money and nothing more. But now, they were going to find out what it meant when I finally stopped giving. I stood in the driveway for a while, trying to understand what had just happened. Inside, anger, sadness, and frustration started growing. The chilly morning air didn't help me think clearer. It only made me feel lonelier. I had been a fool, hadn't I? All these years, I believed I was being a good person, the loyal son, the brother who always helped. But when it was their turn to show even the smallest kindness, I was nothing. Not even important enough for a simple message saying plans had changed. I turned to leave, but then remembered the one thing they always asked me for: "Can you look after Duke?" They always knew I loved that dog. I always fed him, walked him, and played with him while they went on vacation. I was the one who always looked after things while they enjoyed their lives. Duke had become part of my daily life, too. But not anymore. This time was different. I walked into the house, and Duke was waiting there, wagging his tail happily. He didn't know anything was wrong. I couldn't just walk away from him, but I also couldn't stay in that house any longer. I had to act quickly. I picked up a pen and grabbed a piece of paper from the kitchen counter. I sat down at the table, feeling the house emptier than ever before. I couldn't delay this any longer. I owed them nothing anymore. I had spent years giving them my time, my energy, and my money, trying to be the good son and brother. But to them, I was only a backup plan. I had nothing left to offer. I started writing, "Dear Mom, Dad, Olivia, and Noah, I hope you're having a great time on your cruise. You deserve it. Must feel nice to relax. I hope you soak up the sun. Enjoy yourself. And don't worry about small things back home, like maybe the house, Duke, or the fact you left me behind without even telling me. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. And more than that, I'm finished. For years, I have paid your bills, covered your debts, and helped with your money problems. Every single time you needed something, I was there. But every time I needed anything, I was left alone. That stops now. I'm no longer your safety net. Starting today, I'm ending all money support. You'll have to handle things without me now. Duke is being looked after. I asked the neighbors to keep him until you get back. I'm sure they'll care for him better than I ever could for a family like this. Enjoy the rest of your trip, Ethan." I looked at the letter for a few more seconds, still holding the pen tightly. I wasn't expecting them to respond. They had crossed the line, and there was nothing left to fix. I folded the note carefully, attached Duke's leash to his collar, and walked out through the front door. I headed down the street toward the neighbor's house, hoping someone was home. They were good people, friendly, quiet, and always willing to help when needed. I had never asked them for anything before, but today I needed their help. I knocked on their door, and Mrs. Bennett opened it. "Hi, Ethan," she said, smiling, but looking a little surprised. "Is everything all right?" "Hi, Mrs. Bennett," I said. "Yeah, everything's okay. I just need a little help." Her smile faded slightly, but she nodded kindly. "Of course. What do you need?" she asked. I looked down at Duke, wagging his tail happily, unaware of everything happening around him. "I need someone to watch Duke for a while," I said. "My relatives went on their trip without even telling me. They clearly didn't want me around, but they still dumped Duke on me." I stopped for a second, trying to keep my voice calm. "Would you be able to take care of him until they return?" "I just can't stay here right now," I said quietly. Mrs. Bennett's expression softened, and she bent down to stroke Duke's head. "Of course, Ethan. I'll watch him. You've helped us before. We have lots of room for him. It's really no trouble," she said kindly. I handed her the leash and immediately felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted. "Thanks. I really mean it," I said, meaning every word. She smiled gently and said, "You're welcome. Make sure you look after yourself now." I nodded, forcing a smile I didn't feel, and turned to walk back toward my parents' house. But the truth was, I didn't want anything to do with that place anymore. I didn't want anything more to do with them, either. As I walked away, the familiar ache of betrayal hit me. But this time, I didn't let it tear me apart. This was the beginning of a new chapter. I was finished being the person who always saved them while they ignored me. I didn't care what they would think after seeing my letter. They would realize soon enough that I was serious. They would finally have to face the results of their choices, and I would finally be free. As I reached my car, though, a nervous feeling gnawed at my gut. What would they do when they found the letter? How would they react to me cutting ties? I had no way of knowing, but I was ready to find out. I drove home to my apartment, trying not to get overwhelmed by the anger boiling inside. I had made my choice. I didn't know where it would lead, but I had no regrets. I knew it wasn't going to be easy from here. Still, it was the right thing to do. As I pulled into my parking spot and turned off the engine, I thought again about the letter. There would be no turning back. No more second chances. No more being the one they called when things went wrong. They would regret treating me the way they did. And by the time they understood, it would be far too late. Before I left, I made sure the letter was placed somewhere they couldn't miss it. I put it right on the kitchen table next to the coffee machine, the one spot they would definitely look at first when they got home. I didn't want to be there when they read it. I wanted them to feel every part of it without me standing there. I wanted them to deal with the mess themselves without me softening the blow. I wanted the fear and regret to hit them hard. I wanted to be far away but still close enough to watch the fallout happen. It took around 3 days for them to come back. During that time, they didn't call, text, or say anything at all. The silence was deafening. For a tiny second, I felt a little bit guilty, but I reminded myself they had done this, not me. I had spent years giving them everything I could, paying their bills, fixing their mistakes, carrying the burden of their bad decisions. And for what? So they could ditch me when it suited them. So they could plan vacations without even thinking about me. So they could laugh behind my back while I kept giving and giving. The truth was, I was done being the emergency backup. I was finished being their free bank. I was done being the person they only cared about when it was convenient. I kept checking my phone, but nothing. No calls, no messages, just pure silence. I honestly thought they would call when they came home. Maybe to yell, maybe to demand answers, but nothing came. It was strange. It felt like they were pretending nothing had happened, like I was the one causing a problem. Finally, the phone rang. It was my dad. "Ethan," he said, sounding confused and angry at the same time. It was like he thought I had done something terrible to them. "Where is Ethan?" my mom asked, sounding worried now. There was a long pause. Then I heard Olivia's voice. "Wait, what's this?" she said. I could hear the sound of paper being moved around. Another stretch of silence. Then my mom spoke again, but much softer than before. "What is this? Is this supposed to be a joke?" I kept listening quietly. Then my dad's voice again, low and broken. "Ethan, he wouldn't actually do this." Even though he spoke, it was obvious he didn't believe it himself. "No chance," he muttered. Then came the sound of footsteps moving closer to the kitchen. I couldn't see them, but I could hear the rising panic in their movement. I had spelled everything out clearly in the note, and I knew it would hit them hard. It was straight to the point. I wasn't sugarcoating anything anymore. The message I left forced them to face the truth. "I'm stopping all financial help starting now. You'll have to sort things out yourselves. I already made plans for Duke. He's staying with the neighbors until you return." I heard my dad again. This time, his voice was shaky and scared. "What does this mean? We spent a fortune already. You expect us to cover everything alone?" Olivia's voice cut in, filled with shock. "You're seriously going to dump us like this after everything we've done for you? You think we could even afford this vacation without your money?" Their panic grew louder and louder, crashing over me like a giant wave. They were struggling to make sense of it all, but it didn't matter. The truth was already there in front of them. There was no way to undo it now. What hurt more was that none of them seemed sorry for what they did to me. No one said, "Maybe we shouldn't have treated Ethan that way." They were just mad because I stopped doing what they wanted. They were furious because I had finally said enough. After a long pause, the shouting started again, even louder and more desperate. "Ethan, you've lost your mind," my dad yelled. "We're family. You can't abandon us like this. You're being selfish." Olivia snapped, "What are we supposed to do? Pull money out of thin air? This is your fault. You always had money, Ethan. You always fixed everything. And now you just leave?" I cut them off, my voice cold and final, slicing through the chaos. They immediately fell silent. "Finished?" I said firmly. "Finished? What do you mean finished?" my mom asked, her voice shaking, full of disbelief and hurt. "This is crazy, Ethan. We don't have anyone else. You can't leave us to struggle on our own." I leaned back on the couch, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. It had to be done. Hearing them panic made part of me feel sorry for them, but only a small part. "I'm not your rescue plan anymore," I said calmly. "You've had years to do better. Now live with what you've chosen." And then I hung up the phone. I knew they would come running afterward. They always did when they were desperate. But this time, I wasn't answering their calls. Not anymore. I let them panic. I let them sit in the mess they had created. I wasn't interested in hearing their excuses anymore. I wasn't there to listen to their fake apologies. Honestly, they made it worse than it had to be. I wasn't asking for much. I never wanted their thanks. I never demanded their understanding. All I ever wished for was to be treated like something more than just an ATM. But now they had to live without me. They had to finally stand on their own. And honestly, they deserved every second of it. A couple of days went by before they finally showed up at my door. I wasn't shocked. I knew it was coming. They weren't the type to let things go easily. They would show up begging, trying to guilt me into falling back into the role I had played for years. The knock on the door was loud and urgent. For a moment, I thought about ignoring them. Maybe let them wait. Let them feel abandoned, the way they had left me. But no, it was time to face them. I opened the door. There were my parents, faces red from anger and frustration. Olivia was standing nearby, too, arms crossed tightly. But this time, she didn't look defiant. She looked desperate. They were all standing there, the same people who never once truly valued anything I did, now at my door, looking lost with nowhere else to turn. "Ethan," my dad said first, his voice stiff and uneasy. "We need to have a talk." Without saying a thing, I moved aside and let them enter. If they wanted a conversation, it would be on my terms now. No more fake kindness. No more empty excuses. I had spent too many years letting them step all over me. That was finished. They weren't getting any more favors. Once they were inside, they hesitated awkwardly. My dad glanced around the living room, his eyes flickering to the missing things they had once taken for granted. Olivia's eyes darted between me and the empty spaces, but she was too stubborn to speak first. That was just like her. Always too proud to admit she was wrong. It was my mom who finally broke the heavy silence. "Ethan, we don't get it," she said, her voice softer but still edged with anger. "This is crazy. We're your family. How can you walk away after all we've done for you?" "All you've done for me?" I repeated slowly, letting the words hang in the air. "What exactly have you done for me?" I paused, then continued. "You used me for my money. You expected me to stop everything in my life whenever you needed something. But when it was my turn to ask for help, you either ignored me or treated me like a problem." I didn't yell. I didn't have to. My words were stronger than shouting. This wasn't rage anymore. This was me finally standing my ground. "You believe that just because we're family, I owe you?" I said, keeping my voice calm, even though my heart was pounding hard. "You think that means you get to walk all over me without consequences? That's not how it works. That's not how it ever worked." My mom opened her mouth like she wanted to answer, but I raised my hand to stop her. "You had years to change how you treated me. You could have decided to respect me. You could have chosen not to treat me like your personal ATM. You could have stopped making me carry your problems while you spent my money on vacations, cars, and everything else you wanted. But you didn't care." I could feel the mood in the room shift sharply. My dad, who always looked confident, now seemed to crumble a little. Olivia looked away, guilt finally starting to crack through her tough shell. She had always defended them. She always found ways to blame me, but now she was finally seeing that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the villain here. My dad cleared his throat, trying to get his voice back. "Ethan, this is wrong," he said. "We've always supported you through everything." "You used me," I interrupted sharply. "And the saddest part, you don't even realize it. You honestly believe that being my parents or my sister gives you the right to treat me like this?" I shook my head slowly. "I have carried this family for too long, and I'm finished with it." Silence filled the room like a heavy cloud. My parents stood there, trapped by their own selfishness. Olivia looked like she was about to say something, probably something defensive, trying to make excuses, but I wasn't interested anymore. "I'm done," I said clearly, taking a deep breath. "I'm finished being the one you call when everything falls apart. I'm finished being the one who saves you every time. If you think I'm just your personal wallet, go figure it out without me. You're not getting another penny. Not now. Not ever." As I said the words, I felt lighter, as if a huge burden had finally been thrown off my shoulders. It was freeing to finally say out loud what I had been carrying inside me for years. For years, I had been too scared to say what needed to be said. Too worried that standing up for myself would mean losing my family. But the truth was, they had already lost me long ago. They lost me the moment they started treating me like I didn't matter. "You can't really do this, Ethan," Olivia said, her voice shaky. She was no longer the arrogant sister who believed everything should revolve around her. Now she was just someone who had gone too far and realized it too late. "You're not being fair. You were always the one fixing everything. You're the one who always made things right for everyone," she said. "Well, not anymore," I replied simply. "I'm done being the one you lean on. It's time for you to stand on your own." The room went quiet again for a few seconds. My parents stared at me, their faces showing a mixture of shock, disbelief, and something else, maybe regret. But it was too late for any of that now. They had made their choices. They had treated me like a tool, not like a real family member. And now I was walking away. My dad finally spoke, but his voice was much softer now. "Ethan, please. We really need you." "I'm sorry," I said firmly. "But the answer is no. You'll have to manage things by yourselves. You had every chance to do right by me, and now it's too late." They stood there silently for a long time, looking like someone had knocked the air out of them. I could see it, the slow understanding sinking into their faces. For a moment, I almost felt bad for them, but not enough to take back my decision. "This is what happens when you treat someone like they are nothing," I said softly but firmly. "You can't mistreat people for years and expect everything to be fine just because we share blood. That's not how real respect works, and you lost mine a long time ago." They didn't try to say anything else. There were no words left that could fix it. I stood there and watched them leave, heads down, pride broken in a way they never expected. I didn't feel proud or victorious. Actually, I felt hollow. But deep inside, I knew I had made the right decision. For the next few hours, I paced around my home, trying to settle my racing thoughts, wondering if I had done the right thing. The silence in the house felt heavy, like a thick blanket I couldn't shake off. But in my heart, I knew I had made a choice I wouldn't regret. Eventually, I sat down at my desk and started writing this post. I'm not sure if I shared the story the way I meant to or even if I handled everything perfectly, but I wanted to ask you, was I wrong for cutting them off? Did I go too far, or did I finally do what I should have done long ago and stand up for myself? I would really like to hear your thoughts.